Hello and welcome to Lee's Listers, and this is Know Your Listers. So I'm Lee and I specialise in the Lister H2R range. My collection and speciality is between 1910 to 1921 is my collection, and I know a little bit about the 1909 ones as well. The whole idea of this Know Your Listers is to drag two engines out at a go and show you the differences between the two. So to your left is my 1922 R-Type, and to your right is my 1918 Lister N-Type. So let's get into a little bit of detail. So the Lister R is a 1922 version, so it's very early 22. It's one of the last of the blind head engines. It is 9 horsepower at 375 RPM. The litre capacity of the cylinder of this is 3.9 litre. That is one I do know, in a single cylinder. The Lister N is 6 horsepower at 350 RPM. This is say 1918, so it's a mid-run of them from when they changed roughly in 1912-13, and they run with this until 1921, when they changed again to the split head, well, the different bottom end, but yeah, still with the blind head, a few little different bits and pieces. So one of the differences between the N and the R is the width of the flywheel. So on an N, it's 3.5 inches across, and the R is 4.5 inches across. So this is one of the noticeable differences between the two. And the R has heavier flywheels and thicker flywheels to help carry the momentum, to help get the extra horsepower, where the N needs a slightly less heavy flywheel and also has a slightly smaller piston. Another difference, it's not so obvious to see, but the side of the cylinder head on a N is perfectly flat. So maybe one way to see is I put the edge of the tape measure across there, it is dead straight across there. Where if we go across the R, because this has a bigger capacity, here there is a bulge. So when I put a tape measure across, you can see there's an ever so slight gap at the back of the tape measure where it says roughly 6 inches. There's a gap. And that here, you can just see it faintly, is a bulge. And this is to accommodate for a larger piston. Also with the R and N types, the R has a longer valve, as it must be ever so slightly taller in here. And I know that because the springs are different. So the ends are a slightly shorter valve. Like most Listers, these have been frost damaged, so the N has had the complete back of the cylinder blown out. So you can just see here, it has had a repair. This one has been quite extensive. It's cracked in sort of a Y shape. And the R has cracked when I restored this down and under here and slightly across here. You can just see where it's been repaired under here. So that's another place where Listers go. You don't find many that haven't been frosted. Most of them in their life have had some sort of frost damage once over. Things that are the same across them are the carburetors. So you'll notice both have the larger carburetor on. So this carburetor is much bigger in the choke body, and it's bigger in the slider as well compared to the N and J. This is to cope with a lot more fuel that's going through the engine to help again give it more horsepower. Also, it is a 2-inch exhaust rather than an 1.5 inches, and they have a much larger silencer. One thing that is the same across the whole range, except the H-type, because that is different, is the fuel and oil pump. So on both engines, it's the same style of pump, but this one has the slightly earlier style of pump. So they made 3 styles of pump. They made one that was straight right through here without this collar. So that was the first style. The second style has this rib or extra collar in the top cast in, and this third style, if I go across to the R-type, has a gland nut in the top. So it's the same bottom, but it's threaded in here with a gland nut. So the idea is that it's still the same string in the bottom, apart from you can put a washer in the top to stop them leaking so much, because they are quite well known for that. You'll notice on the R-type as well, it has a very late ML magneto. So this is actually a rotary magneto, which they fitted to quite a lot of H-types, because they was both flick and rotary mag. So this is the magneto they would have used for that. But they also did a conversion kit for this flicker, and they sold this quite late. So the models after this with the slightly different base had this magneto fitted. So this one has got the later ML on, and this engine should have the early Bosch Type 22 or a brass ML. I have taken it off, it is in storage, so it's not on the engine at the moment. Things that are the same with the engines is the crankcase again. The crank is exactly the same size on these as 2 1/4, I think. Going to test me now. 2.5 inch, sorry. Just check that one's the same. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. 2.5 inches. And the pulleys are also the same. So they have round and these D-shaped holes in. So they are exactly the same pulleys. The different flywheels. You see in there, it's got round D, round D, round D. The cranks are the same. The cylinder heads on these engines are different. So this one has an N casting, that one has an R casting, to show this is obviously a smaller cylinder. You can tell as well, a bit like the J and the L, there's more room at the back of the nuts, where on the R there's significantly less room, showing the bigger piston. Obviously the bigger top to accommodate for that. The N is a lot more dainty in size. One thing you will notice, so these are actually Lister L trolleys, because the trolleys for these are extremely rare. So they're actually on smaller trolleys than they should be, but they are original Lister trolleys. And you'll notice there's a significant height difference compared to a L type. So this engine to here, I do know is 6'2" because this engine was made to go in a garage with only 6'3" headroom. So to give you an idea, I'm 5'10", and this engine is 6'2" to that pipe there. So they're a fair big old thing. I do know with an R type, if you used to work this engine at full chat and working hard, you would be looking round about 1 gallon an hour of petrol to go through it. So they are extremely thirsty when they are running. They are no cheap engine to run, unlike your small stuff. So both these engines have been converted to screen cooling. So neither was originally screen cooling. There was both tank cools, but you just need such a large amount of water for these. It's a lot easier to have them screen cooled. So this one has a Lister #1 gear pump. That one has a small centrifugal pump. This has woven wire mesh, which is more of a replica of a cooling system, where the R I restored is a ex-army mess kitchen sink with this fluted cooling system. So the water's the same again, runs in top of there, down a baffle plate, runs down here into the tank. The idea of these screen coolings is that as it runs down here, or runs down the mesh, it gets lots of air through the mesh, and the air helps the cooling of the engine, helps dispensate the heat by creating more surface area, so you can run significantly less water to cool the engine, rather than having vast amounts of cooling tank. One thing to spot with the larger listers, so the N, P, Q and R, is that the fact they have a decompressor lever. So this is unique. So this is only on the larger engines. So this design came in 1911-ish. Prior to that, there was slightly different crankcase again, but this design run until the very, very last engines in the late 30s. So there's two positions. There's this top position, which is start, and this bottom position, which is run. And what it does, it moves over the whole camshaft in here. Well, actually, it moves half the camshaft. So there's a fixed lobe here for the exhaust and a fixed lobe for the inlet. And then on this side of the exhaust, this part of the camshaft moves. And what it does, when it's in the up position, it fetches an extra lobe in under the exhaust valve. So it lifts twice effectively. And when it lifts twice, it lets some of the compression out the cylinder and lets them start a lot easier, because these have a hell of a lot of compression. When it's in the bottom position, so also what it does, there's two lobes on here for the magneto. So this one is slightly retarded and this one's advanced. And when you move it over, sorry, other way around. So that one's slightly retarded, that one's slightly advanced, because it runs on this one, does the flicker for the magneto when it's starting, and when it's in that position, it runs on this one, which advances the timing, which also moves the lobe out the way, which gives it full compression. So when you start these, you put it into high, turn it like L till it fires, and then move that over and you get full compression and full advanced timing. This engine also has the wrong fuel tank, so this has a Lister L fuel tank. It should have a much wider fuel tank like this. So I do have one to fit at some point. It's on my list of jobs. Yeah, that is the main differences between the Lister R and the Lister N. The R is the largest single cylinder petrol engine that Lister produced, at 9 horsepower in the early days, and then as time progressed on, they upped the horsepower to 10 by making them run slightly faster, changing the compression, the cylinder head, a few little tweaks and bits and pieces, but they still run a flick magneto the whole time they produce these engines. So yeah, that's some of the differences between the two. So the engine number for the N is 19334. It's an N, 6 horsepower at 350 RPM. The R is 33006, 375 RPM, 9 horsepower, and the spec is an 8R, and it's a Type R. So this one, being slightly later, has a slightly different plate. So that's the differences between the Lister N and Lister R. I hope you like this video. If you do, please subscribe below. Please drop me a like. Please drop me a comment. I love to read the comments. And please share it with your friends and family and help the channel grow. Yeah, and there'll be plenty more of these Know Your Listers to come. And I hope you like it. And yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you soon. We'll see you in the next video.